The body is a very complex matrix of systems which work individually and collectively. When you get sick and experience some symptoms, how does your doctor tell what is wrong, considering that the body is fully covered with the skin? By looking at the symptoms. The same symptom in one person can mean a different illness in another person. This is the dilemma that is facing health practitioners every day. The headache of diagnosis. In this show, we present you with a medical intuitive who transcends the barriers of diagnosis and treatment and make this look so easy. Watch the show and be amazed.
I am a medical intuitive. I use alternative techniques to diagnose and treat illnesses.
According to into yabo research yabo ayikho treatment for lung disease.
This is a God-given gift which is coupled with my training and acumen for physiology and anatomy. Over the years, I've successfully diagnosed and treated illnesses that have defied even the best of some of the medical practices. We all have our life purpose, and this one is mine. A very warm welcome to Dr. Alternative. This is a continuation of the show that we presented last week. But if you remember, I presented you with two profiles of similar symptom. Both these clients had a similar condition and they were both having convulsions, seizures. But the causes were totally different. But just to recap, let us have a look at the profile of this person. But before we do that, Andy, so can you greet the viewers again, please?
Once again, greetings to all the viewers, and it's so great to be here again, Thembi. Thank you for having us.
All right, let's take a look at the profile of this person. Now, as you can see, okay, that she also came to our rooms. But now the difference with this one, she had been admitted, and because she was convulsing non-stop, okay. But the difference in her type of convulsions was that she was not losing consciousness. She was conscious, but she was just convulsing non-stop. I remember even when she was sitting in the scan, they were battling to keep her calm, you know, because she was. But at least I managed to pick up the reading from her results, even though they were quite disturbed by her convulsion. Even while I was, she could hear me. While I was talking to her, she could hear me, but she was all the time. If you look at a person who's having electric shock, electric current, who's being electrocuted, where you see that's what she was doing. Now, she had been hospitalized for the same thing. And they tried to give her the calming medication, but she just would not respond to anything. But now what was wrong what did I pick up? And believe you me, this is something that anyone would expect that it should be detected by the conventional, because she had high levels of sugar. She was seriously hyperglycemic. But what I cannot understand is, how did they miss that? Because hyperglycemia with conventional medicine is something that they pick up very easily. I still today, this is one case, in fact there are two cases like this where there was serious hyperglycemia and there was no detection of it. This is one case where I would really love to have a discussion with conventional medicine and find out more about their techniques and how come they missed something like this. And now remember, hyperglycemia is very, very serious. You could even fall into a coma. You could go into a coma and die, when there's too much sugar in your blood. So she was hyperglycemic. Now, she was not a known diabetic, because I suppose maybe in cases of known diabetes, maybe that could be another explanation why they didn't pick up, because she was not known to be diabetic. Okay. So I don't know if they did some blood tests to test the sugar, or I don't know. I mean, she could not tell me what kind of course she would not know what kind of test. I mean, they did take some blood, but she doesn't know what kind of testing that was. So, and that's what I picked up, okay, that she was seriously hyperglycemic. Then I was asking her if she was not feeling thirsty and urinating all the time, okay. But she did say that she tended to feel thirsty. But how come she was not urinating all the time? Because even this time that she was sitting, she had been to the scan, because you'll find sometimes people will put them, because they sit for an hour in the scan, and then maybe while I'm analyzing, maybe that's another hour or so. So you've got a full 2 hours before you come and see me, and maybe I take another 30 minutes or even an hour, depending on how engaging you are in our discussion. So, but she never was running that much to the toilet, to pee. So this was an interesting one for me, a really very interesting one for me, which I would have loved also to analyze and study further to understand why it was not detected, just like epilepsy, why it was not detected. I don't know why this one was not detected, but what concerns me, or what intrigued me more in this case, was hyperglycemia is conventional specialty. They pick it up at the click of a finger. So how come with this one? Okay, I cannot give answers in this one. I cannot even give maybe a logical explanation why that was the case. But that was the condition. But I did ask if she was experiencing some other symptoms besides getting thirsty. Okay, but she did concur that she used to get thirsty, but not like in an alarming way. But now remember, what makes the body to make you want to drink? Because that is its natural way of trying to eliminate. That's how you find when people have got high sugar levels, the sugar has gone up, they will get thirsty and they will urinate. Get thirsty and urinate. Because the body uses that mechanism to try and reduce the amount of sugar in your blood. Now remember, water makes a large percentage of the blood. Even when a person is dehydrated, maybe you are bleeding too much, what happens is before they will give you a blood transfusion, they will first give you a drip, and that drip is nothing else but water. Okay, but now because water is a large component of the blood, so now when you're drinking water, you're still taking something in which the blood, which constitutes the blood. So the body is using that part of itself in the blood to try and eliminate. So even when you find that a person, something that you must do first before you think of anything else, give that person water, because that water helps to eliminate, to reduce the blood, and they will urinate, and that will help to reduce the proportions of the levels. Okay. So this was the case with her. So now that's why I was asking if she was not getting thirsty. But what she was saying is she was getting thirsty, but she was drinking, but not in a way that would be like drinking too much. So the situation with this lady, therefore, was hyperglycemia and nothing else. That's what was causing her to have those convulsions. Okay. Now there are certain types of epileptic seizures that are linked to keto energy, but I don't want to go there because I never managed to check and see if there was a connection in her case, which is why she was having those convulsions. But I know that hyperglycemia on its own will cause convulsions, and I can also concur with. I had another case, but this one was coming from Joburg and came to our clinic here in Port Elizabeth. But I was not in Port Elizabeth; I was in Joburg. So, and we had already worked out a treatment program for him before I left. But now, when he came up the following morning, I mean, it was the third, because he was coming for voltage treatment and the chair. So on the third day, the consultants called me and they said, the mother said, this particular client was behaving strangely. Even when he woke up, he was shivering. He was very cold. So they don't know what's happening, whether it's the treatment, the voltage treatment that he was receiving, or medication or whatever. So the mother was very concerned, because I think there was also a little bit of confusion. I also didn't know what was happening. So I said to them, scan him and send me the pictures, which they did. And I was like, sugar in his blood was too much. So that is what was causing him to have like feeling cold. And that's what will happen, that you'll find that a person wants sugar level, or you are not aware that you are diabetic. What happens is that when you wake up in the morning, you might feel cold. Feel really cold while other people are okay, but you are shaking, you're feeling cold. So that is one telltale that you must actually watch. But in her case, she was shivering non-stop. It had nothing to do with when she was waking up or whatever. So, but I want to stress that convulsions, hyperglycemia is extremely dangerous. You've got to make sure that you check your diabetes, you control your levels, and you might even come to us because we'll be able to help you to control that diabetes, whether it is type 1 or it is type 2. So when we come back after the break, I will talk more about how difficult type 1 diabetes seems to render the ability of being detected. So let's go for a quick break.
Are you sitting with an illness with no diagnosis, and every doctor in town does not know what is wrong with you? Don't throw in a towel. There's hope for you. St. Mary's Alternative Clinic is a clinic with divine guidance that can do what doctors can't do. Make a booking and you won't be sorry.
Welcome back. We're still talking about hyperglycemia, which is high sugar levels that were causing this lady to have convulsions like that. Okay. Now, I want to mention that I've seen a few cases where people have got type 1 diabetes and it's not detected. I remember even my own father, even though at that stage I was not involved I was not doing health, I was still just a young girl at high school. My father had all the symptoms of a diabetic, but it was never detected, such that he ended up dying. He died a blind man. Okay, now you know diabetes caused neuropathy and will cause your blindness is one of those besides the amputation of legs. So he died a blind man, and diabetes that could never be detected, even though they would ask for to doctors to give him treatment. They refused, even though they picked up the symptoms were exactly of someone with diabetes, but they refused to give him treatment because they could not pick it up in their testing tools, and therefore didn't know what to give to him. I've heard another lady, this particular one was a nurse from Grahamstown, whose mother had all the presenting symptoms of a diabetic. And she said she used to beg her colleagues that were doctors to at least give her something, but she was scared to herself take something and give because she didn't know if it would be bad, too much or too little or whatever. So hence she wanted a doctor to help. And she said they were scared because they said, how do we give? Because when we detect it, we are in a position to know because we pick up the reading. Is it 10? Is it 11? Is it 6? Is it 12? Is it 20? And then that guides them on what dosages and what type to give. But now when they cannot pick up any reading, they don't know what to give and how much to give. So they refused. And she said, what happened is that her mother, this particular day, which is when she actually died, she went into a coma. In fact, before she went into a coma, she just fainted. Yeah, she fainted, had no energy whatsoever. And when they rushed her to hospital and they tested, only then did they pick up that she was so hyperglycemic. The sugar levels had gone so high. But she said when they tried to control it and they gave her the highest dosages of lowering, nothing responded. And when they did further tests, the pancreas had packed up. It had packed up. So it was not producing insulin whatsoever because it was too late. All this time, the symptoms were presenting, but they were not. The doctors were not in a position to detect it. The pancreas was saying, "Hey, I'm not coping. Hey, I've got a problem." But because they could not pick it up in their readings, they could not give a treatment, and it suffered until it collapsed. So when it finally collapsed, and then only then did they detect, look at all this sugar. But then it was too late, so they did not control it, and the mother died. So this was a nurse who was sharing this story for me. So what I'm getting at, therefore, is that there are people who are suspecting that they've got diabetes, and who in fact have got diabetes, but because it is not detected, it cannot be picked up in the testing techniques, they are not receiving treatment. So it's getting worse and worse and is getting to very, very serious proportions. Okay, I think Andiswa indicates she's got a question for me there.
I just want to find out the relation between the seizures. You call one epilepsy and you call one convulsion. What is the difference?
Okay. Now, in the convulsions, like I said, that this lady was conscious, but both of them, the body is shaking uncontrollably. Okay, but the difference between the two is that with seizures, the person is unconscious, is not even aware that this is what is happening. Whereas the one with convulsions, she had not reached the stage of coma, so she was still conscious. So while I was talking to her, she was like convulsing, but was conscious. Okay.
So it doesn't affect the brain, this one?
It didn't affect the brain yet. But when you go into a coma, then the brain is affected. The brain is shutting and saying, not necessarily dead, but saying, I cannot cope, make a plan. For now, I'll be lying down while you're making a plan, because that's what happens when the brain goes into a shock. It's saying, if I continue now, I'm going to crash, so I might as well just lie low while you are making a plan to help me or to find out. So that's what happens when it shuts down. Okay, but it's different from when it crashes and you go brain dead. But that's another thing altogether. But you may go into a coma, which it's giving itself a rest and giving you a chance to say, make a plan. Okay, so the brain can still be affected when you go into a coma, but when you are convulsing like that, you are on the verge. You are on your way to a coma, because it's giving you all that to say stop, and to bring us back to that same car analogy again. That when the car goes, you will not go further with it. You're going to pull aside and stop, because you know you're killing it. You're making it worse. It's the same with the body. So when it's doing that, it's saying, I am not coping either. There's too much of this sugar. I don't know how to deal with it. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. Or that insulin is saying, there's no energy. Bring me some energy. This one is saying there's too much of sugar. Because remember, that sugar is giving you energy. But you still have to have the amount that the body needs. It's just like with children that have got ADD, or not just only ADD, but ADHD. Both ADD and ADHD, it's the brain that cannot rest. But with ADHD, even the body, you are hyperactive. But you'll find that a common denominator in children that have got ADHD and what I'm talking about, sugar, they cannot break down sugar. So that's why they're up and down and jumping up and, because that's a body trying to burn that energy. Because when you've got energy you are given so that you use it for that body, whether you go cardio or not. But now they don't know how to, they have to use it the best way they know how as children. So that brain cannot stand still. That body cannot stand still. Even a child who's just got ADD, he may not be hyperactive, but that brain is flustered, cannot get still. So you can't, because now when you're concentrating and listening, that brain has got to be still and focus. But now when it can't be listening, it's moving, jumping from that to that to that one. So that's why you find it cannot be still. So children with ADD or ADHD, one thing that I know for sure is an added problem is they cannot break down that sugar. So it's their way of trying to get rid. So even with these convulsions, therefore, the body is saying, I have got to get rid. So it's get rid of that energy. There's too much sugar. Reduce it. That's that's what is happening. But now coming back to this lady, let's first go to a quick break, and then we continue with how I dealt with her. welcome back. Now I'm going to go to how I treated this lady, because maybe a person would have thought that for someone who's hyperglycemic, conventional has got some very quick protocols for people that are hyperglycemic. 1, 2, 3. Now here the person, because I could not send her back to conventional and say, hey, she's hyperglycemic, give her something. And as you know, our treatment at alternative in alternative medicine, they tend to go a bit longer. It's unlike a drug. If, for instance, people that have got pain, excruciating pain that needs to be relieved immediately. We don't have that kind of medication in alternative medicine where we say, okay, we give you an injection and the pain goes immediately. Okay. We might have homeopathic, like for instance, tissue salts. We know maybe I say take these every 15 minutes or every 10 minutes. Then you find maybe after an hour. But it's unlike where you get an injection, 15 minutes, it's done. So that's the difference with conventional and alternative. Now here's the person. She wants. I have to treat her. I cannot send her back for a quick drip to reduce sugar levels or whatever they give, which I think if it was conventional, they would have given her a drip. Now, what do I do? Especially in the light of what I'm saying? Well, firstly, like I've indicated, that what I am advising you at home is that if you are a known diabetic, of course, you will not get to high sugar levels if your diabetes is well looked after. Okay. But in the case you have defaulted, because I know a lot of people default, and they say, cake, then they'll cut cinnamon. I'll cut cinnamon. I know people that I've got people that I go to church with, and there's this particular one who's close who will say, no, I will just eat quickly, eat cake, and then I'm gonna lick cinnamon. So I know there's a lot of that which goes on among the diabetics, and I can actually understand that. I really feel for them, because it's not like you don't crave. When you see people having ice cream, ice cream is bad for all of us, diabetics or not. But at least when you know you are not diabetic, you're just gonna give it your best shot and know that maybe you won't take it for another month or so. But even this person who's diabetic wants to give it her best shot. But now with her, the sugar is going to shoot up like anything. So now, what happens is, so people do default to a great deal. But now what I'm getting at is, of course, that cinnamon that I'm joking about is very good for reducing sugar levels and for controlling diabetes. But I'm not getting into that, how we mix it and all that, because we don't just use it or give it as a spice. It's mixed with other things, including honey and quantities and all that. It's good for regulating diabetes. But now, one more advice that I want to give, like I've indicated, when you pick up that your sugar is very high and you don't have medication, or you don't even know if you've got it, once you feel faintly and you suspect that it might be sugar, drink a lot of water. Drink a lot of water. You will never go wrong by drinking a lot of water. But in any case, I advised this lady to do that also, but then I gave her protocols. We've got protocols for diabetes. But now with protocols for diabetes, we have got different ranges. I don't normally give diabetic treatment. Why? Because when people come to me, they pay for what I give them. including that diabetic medication if I must give it to them. Whereas if they go to the clinic, at the clinic, the government pays for it, so they don't really pay for it. So you will find that I will give you treatment for other things that have brought you to me, but if you are taking medication from the clinic, I will not give you treatment for diabetes, even though I will help you to control your diabetes. But you'll find that even in there, once your diabetes is controlled, I always advise you, I don't take people off their diabetic medication or blood pressure medication. It's not my call to do that. I want you to go to your clinic and show them the consistency of your chronic illness, how controlled it looks, so that they themselves will stop you from taking medication. But then people tell me that it never happens. Once you are put on this medication, you are put on it for life. When you show them that the readings are showing to be healthy, they will not say, okay, let's stop giving you medication. Now they're saying, you're doing very well, you're looking well after yourself and you're taking your medication well. So in their thinking, it is that medication that is suppressing the symptoms and maintaining the readings. So the understanding is that once you stop, then it's going to go up again. Whereas with us, the idea is to make sure that the body is fixed so that it takes over that function of regulating that diabetes or that blood pressure, so that you don't have to rely on medication for life. So that is our approach. So even when we treat you, therefore, we treat you to beef up the systems of your body so that the body takes over its functionality and regulate, supply you with those hormones or whatever it needs to regulate those conditions. Okay. So even with her, I gave her the treatment for controlling diabetes, but then I also worked on her pancreas, because remember, pancreas produces pancreatin enzyme. Now those enzymes, pancreatin enzyme, helps to not only with diabetes control or production of insulin, but it helps with a whole lot of other things. And as I've indicated earlier, that pancreas also produces gastrin, which is responsible for digesting food in your stomach. So pancreas is also involved in food digestion. It also forms part of your digestive system, like I indicated. Even the liver is also involved, like I said, that it provides bile, which helps to digest fat, your lipids. So it's also, and there's a whole lot of other enzymes that it produces. So therefore, we had to work on that pancreas so that it does its function of regulating that insulin hormone, so that or those islet cells, so that they produce enough insulin to regulate that sugar. Okay. But I also helped her with insulin resistance. Okay, because in some cases, particularly in a case like this, because you will find that in some cases you're dealing with pancreas that's not pumping sufficiently, or insulin that is resisted by the cells, they're not receiving it. But in her case, I actually dealt with both. I dealt with both, beefing up the pancreatin enzyme so that it helps those islet cells and with the production of insulin, enough insulin, but then I also assisted with the cells to receive, to take out the toxic buildup in her cells so that they could receive insulin. So after the break, we round up and complete this case. Let's go for a quick one.
Are you sitting with an illness with no diagnosis and every doctor in town does not know what is wrong with you? Don't throw in a towel. There's hope for you. St. Mary's Alternative Clinic is a clinic with divine guidance that can do what doctors can't do. Make a booking and you won't be sorry.
Welcome back. Now we are wrapping up how I helped this lady in controlling her diabetes, and how I ended up touching on other systems like the endocrine system that affected her pancreas. And so you wanted to ask something?
Thembi, let's talk stages. You mentioned diabetes 1, diabetes 2. Is there diabetes 3? What is the difference between the three, and what are the symptoms between the three?
Now, diabetes, there are two main diabetes types that are known. There is one, the third one is the one that occurs during pregnancy. Okay, so you find a person might end up having high levels of, or develop sugar diabetes once the pregnancy, once she has delivered, then you find it normalizes. But that is also, and you find that it goes together in some cases with high blood pressure. If you have heard of cases where they say a person has got preeclampsia, okay, which raises blood pressure levels, then you find there's also diabetes and all that with all the hormonal changes, because remember, there's a lot of hormonal changes that occur with a pregnancy, and that affects the endocrine system, because the endocrine system controls the glands. So your pancreas is a gland, it controls diabetes. Your adrenal glands are on your kidneys, they control blood pressure. And then you're pregnant, that's your reproductive system. So you find that your endocrine system is put under a lot of pressure, and then it ends up creating those problems when it's not coping, which is what ends up leading to preeclampsia. Okay, so that's the third type of diabetes. Okay, but the two common ones, it's your type 1 and your type 2. Now your type 1 is when the pancreas is not pumping sufficient insulin for the diabetes to be under control. It's not only limited to older people. That's the one that affects children as well, where you find that children they are very young, but they are diabetic. So they tend to have diabetes type 1. So it's when the problem is with the pancreas. It's not pumping sufficient insulin to curb that accumulation of diabetes in your blood. But type 2 is when your cells are resisting to receive insulin. Because remember, insulin carries sugar to your cells so that they can use it as energy for whatever function they need to use it for. So now, here is the pancreas. It has produced enough insulin. Now it's carrying it to the cells. But it gets to the cells and say, hey, I'm bringing your order. But the cells are not opening. So now the sugar remains in the blood. So that is the metabolic type of diabetes, because it's the metabolism, like I indicated with the thyroid, that it's the conversion of food into energy. So that's a metabolic disorder. But all it boils down to is your cells, which are supposed to open the door and say, okay, thank you, and use it. Thank you. But now the door is blocked. The insulin is bringing, here's the load, but nothing. Okay, so that's what happens with your type 2. Your pancreas has got no problem, but then type 2 ends up causing problem with type 1, with your pancreas. Because if the brain is picking up that there is still sugar in the brain, in the blood, it will say, and remember, it's not just the sugar that's sitting in the blood. The cells that are supposed to be receiving are saying, we're hungry. We have got no sugar. You haven't received sugar. You know? Meanwhile, the sugar has been released by the pancreas. The insulin is the truck has loaded to take to the cells, but the cells are not receiving. So the problem is both sugar that's sitting in the blood and sugar that is not received at the destination. So you've got two. So what happens? The cells report to the mother, to the brain, and say, we're hungry, we haven't received our food. So the brain sends the message to the pancreas and says, hey, are you sitting on your laurels? Where's the sugar? Where's the insulin? Then the pancreas said, no, but I delivered. They said, no, but these kids are hungry, they have not received. So give me insulin. There's the pancreas. Now you see that it has worked so hard supplying that insulin that is sitting, that is not managed to be received on the cells. The pancreas is working a double shift now, pumping again. Then it carries again insulin, it gets to the cells, they are still not receiving. So that's what happens. Then you find that a person started just as type 2, but then the pancreas is battling also now. Then you're sitting with double problems. Insulin resistance and insufficient supply of insulin. But the problem had started from your metabolism.
So which one has convulsions? Is it both?
Both have got convulsions. But remember, what triggers convulsions is that accumulation of sugar in your blood. It's not the fact that the pancreas is failing to do its job. It has done its job. It has released enough insulin. But the culprit there that has not received, maybe they're dancing and having a party, they don't even hear that the door is saying, here's the delivery, you know. So now the truck is stuck on the road, and now what happens, like I talked about glycosylation disorder, that now here's the sugar that's blocking the way, and here's a different truck that's carrying protein. It's doing its job, it doesn't worry about sugar. But then what happens, because the sugar is blocked, it actually entraps the protein as well. Then you're sitting with an even worse problem, glycosylation. Okay, so those are the complications that occur with the problem of diabetes. Then you find every time you go to hospital, I control it. Kutheni wrong, kutheni unikwe injection, kumane kunyisa kuthiwa nyisa milligrams zale phela. Hayi sakufaka kwi-injection, faka injection. Bakufaka why? Because that blood is filled with sugar. So when they test the blood, you've got so much sugar. So they've got to deal with that blood that is injured because it's actually very dangerous. That is what is causing convulsions. That's what can cause you to have coma and all that. So what do? They're giving you something that's going to try and destroy and suppress that sugar that is sitting there. Meanwhile, the cells are still hungry. The cells are still, because for as long as they are resisting to receive the insulin, it's not reaching them. So then you find, that's why you find people of diabetes are always saying, in my bag, I must always have a sweet. Because why? That sweet is helping them to, because the cell has not received the sugar, so you feel tired. So now you need something to nibble, because at least a little bit of that sugar maybe will reach that cell. So that is what is happening. So what I'm getting at therefore is that when you treat diabetes or any other illness for that matter, you need to know, in this case, is it the pancreas that is not pumping sufficiently? Or is it the cell that is resisting the reception of insulin? Or is it glycosylation. There's a track that has blocked the way that is causing entrapment of the protein. You need to know which one are you. You can't just say, "Nazi pills is a swagil." Here's treatment because treatment for pancreas that's battling is different from treatment for insulin. Even though you may give treatment for suppressing the sugar that is floating in the blood. That may be common. But now, to deal with it further, you've got to deal with which one is coming from where, because that's the only way you will control that diabetes. Which is why, therefore, I'm saying, people will say, "I'm following every instruction. I'm taking diabetes medication, I'm eating as I'm instructed, I'm watching over my health, I'm doing everything, but my swagile is uncontrollable. And look now, I'm going for amputation. So what am I supposed to do?" Because where they are missing the point is, all they are focusing on is on how do they suppress sugar that is in your blood. Meanwhile, the pancreas is battling there to give insulin that's going to carry that load, or the cells are battling to open their blocked, whether it's toxic build up or it's whatever, because we'll be able to pick up why are your cells resisting to take insulin. We'll be able to pick up what is the cause. So then when we know, we're not just only suppressing sugar that is here, but we're helping the pancreas if the problem comes from it. We're helping the insulin resistance, opening that build up in your cells, opening those doors so that you can receive it. Then the sugar that was a problem all of a sudden is like, voila, is sorted. So from the person to the symptom. I cannot stress that more. Okay. So there you are, viewers. This was now to show you, because we've got a lot of people, even though, some are not even our clients, but this is just an eye-opener so that you know that diabetes is a big problem. And in our next show, we're going to cover diabetes in relation to coronavirus. Because I've had a lot of questions from people saying they're worried because they've been made aware that people that are diabetic are most at the risk of dying and of not responding to COVID-19 treatment or pandemic. So they want to know why is that. They don't have answers, so they're asking me, can you provide answers? So in our next show, therefore, we're going to cover diabetes, talk more about it, and in relation to coronavirus and how you can actually, how we can help you to avoid that problem, so that even if it catches up with you, you're not at risk of dying or of not responding or of having complications that end up taking your life. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.
Are you sitting with an illness with no diagnosis, and every doctor in town does not know what is wrong with you? Don't throw in a towel. There's hope for you. St. Mary's Alternative Clinic is a clinic with divine guidance that can do what doctors can't do. Make a booking and you won't be sorry.